Hello, beautiful souls. This is Vladi, and we're at the beautiful show and interviewing another absolutely amazing author, Christina Napoleon, and she will tell us a lot about her. But let me just introduce you. She's a number one best-selling author. She is a keynote speaker, a certified grief educator, and a world-renowned positive widow coach. She has written a book, and I'm gonna read the whole title. It is The Positive Widow: the four simple ways to hope and healing after loss. Welcome, Christina. Thank you so much for coming and joining us and talking about your beautiful mission.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And every chance that I have to raise awareness on widowhood, on spousal loss, it's just my honor. So thank you very, very much for this opportunity.
Oh, a pleasure. It's such a dear subject, and there's so many people who suffer with loss. And before we actually started recording, we were saying how Robert R. Russell, who wrote the book Dry Those Tears, which Christina knows, is one of those books which helps because sometimes I like the saying, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. But rightly so, Christina pointed out that it's sometimes we just, when we're in the hole, it's hard to get up. And then we need someone, some sort of inspiration, someone who went through it because we resonate with people who went through it, think they can understand us. The empathetical sort of emotional part is so much easier to understand for someone who went through it. So, Christina, tell us what's your intention for the book and your mission. Tell us more about your beautiful way.
Thank you. So my book that I wrote is called The Positive Widow. My intention of writing this book, number one, I did not know how much healing was going to happen when I started writing my book. My intention was to raise awareness for widowhood. We still live in an uneducated grief society. And so often I was told as a widow, I lost my husband to cancer when my daughter was only 6 years old. And everybody had opinions. Everybody wanted me to move on. Isn't it time to get over him, Christina? They didn't understand how difficult losing your spouse is, your life partner, the man that you loved and married and wanted to spend the rest of your life with. How hard it is to be able to take those baby steps to move forward. So, my intention for the book was to write about hope and healing. And it's all centered around the word hope. H is for heal your heart. O is open your heart. P is protect your heart. And E is encourage your heart. So many times as a widow, we feel like we're so isolated. We're on this island of grief all by ourselves. Everybody else has moved on in their lives, and we're just staying in this little world of darkness. So, for me, when I wrote the book, I wanted to share a message of hope for other widows that there can be hope and healing after loss.
I love how you describe it, and I love the four words because hope is such a powerful word. It's a positive emotion.
Yes.
And I know that my grandma, when she lost a couple of her kids, my mom is out of 11, and she lost a couple of her kids. And she said the hardest thing there is for a mother is actually to outlive your child. But she said life
Yeah.
goes on, and I have another one. And when you shift the focus, I just remember that part when she said to me, I shift my focus on those who are still here and that I can do, and those who I can help. And I always sort of admired her for that.
Yes. Yes. And it's a decision you have to make. For me, I thought it had to be a rock because my daughter was only 6 years old. So I suppressed my grief. I pushed it down and I just was on autopilot and wasn't the right thing to do. And then what happens? Real life happens. I then lost my mom. Then I lost my dad. So because I suppressed my grief, it all came up right after my dad died. And I just wanted to stay under the blankets and put it over my head and close the curtains and just cry all day long. And one morning, I dropped my daughter off at school, and normally I would go right back home and take my husband's picture and wear his white Hanes t-shirt. I don't know why he loved white Hanes t-shirts and spray it with his cologne. And I would just go back to sleep. But that morning I drove to the beach. I live in beautiful Southwest Florida. So we have beautiful beaches here. And I was just at a place where I was walking on the beach and I looked over at all the waves that were crashing against the shoreline. And I thought, wow, that's just like grief. These waves come and they hit you so unexpectedly, and you think you're getting your footing, and then another one knocks you right back down. But that
Mm,
morning, my daughter's heart was hurting, my heart was hurting, and I had to make a decision. Do I want to stay in this world of darkness? Or do I want to learn how to swim through those grief waves and stop sitting at the bottom of the darkest, deepest ocean floor? And so in that moment, I made the decision. I immersed myself in grief education. I spent 3 years learning everything I could learn about grief. And it still wasn't enough. Even though I hired grief counselors to help me with my grief, they didn't understand what spousal loss was. They had all the book knowledge, they had all the clinical training, but they had never lost their husband or their wife. So they didn't understand. Well, Christina, why can't you get out of bed in the morning and just go for a walk? Why do you struggle at night? Why do you keep waking up at 3:30 every morning? Um, all those all those things, the secondary losses is what I call it inside of my book. Unless you walk in our shoes, it's
yes.
really hard to understand the pain of spousal loss. They say the two hardest losses is exactly what you said about your grandmother, your spouse and your children. Those are the two hardest losses, and your own loss. That's what I always tell my clients. Your loss is your hardest loss.
Yes, it's so true because especially today being a Valentine's Day and my
Oh,
daughter actually their school is doing the campaign where they call it self-love campaign. So it
oh,
is
I love that.
Valentine's, but they are transferring it because you can't give what you don't have. And I
Right.
love what you just mentioned because all the story, although it must have been so hard at the time you're dealing with it, but you made the decision. I love that. I'd like everyone to stop and pause because everything we do in our life is about the decisions we make. We
Yeah.
always have a choice. We have a choice to do it or don't do it. We have a choice to be good or bad. It's just a label, but really, do I move forward or go backwards?
Right.
And I really just go into what you just said. It was the decision you made because it's about you. And what
Yes.
it's like losing you. If we lose ourselves, that is the biggest loss because then we can't even help your spouse and a child if we actually have them around because being the best version of ourselves and focusing on love and joy and the core values. People sometimes in this, especially in this world, we're so hectic and everything's so rushed and everything's speedy and people don't pause and really appreciate the simple things in life, like actually sitting on the beach and looking at the waves. And that's where the revelation happened for you. I love that you actually told the story because it doesn't happen with the book. I know that people who walk the talk and people you understand and you actually worked on it and it's not easy. It's a decision, but to make a decision and then step forth into that, it comes with challenges. And it's the same. I remember going to a children's webinar, and this coach was talking about, how do you handle certain behaviors of toddlers, when they had the terrible twos. And somebody
Yes.
asked her, like, how many children you have? And she said, I don't have any kids yet. And immediately she lost the audience on that point because you
There's a
cannot
disconnect.
understand
Yes.
to
Yeah.
you can coach, but it's like telling someone how to build a bike or how to ride a bike. I can write about it, you can read about it, but unless you really ride the bike, you
Right.
really haven't matched the two. It's the theory
Right.
and
And
the experience and practice that has to happen to be
absolutely.
oneness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I started my own grief relief group coaching program. It's my heart. It's my passion. It's a beautiful program. It's an 8-week program. And I have had breakthrough moments with my widow clients where they had a psychiatrist, they had a therapist, a grief counselor. And then they hired me and they signed up for the grief relief group coaching program. And what a difference, the transformation. the breakthroughs, the magic that was happening on my hope seat. I call it hope seat instead of hot seat, where they get
Love
to
it.
share stories about their husbands, and we have tears and laughter, and they're growing, they're evolving because they're learning. I'm teaching them about grief. I'm teaching them about widowhood. So they don't think everything is in their head. They don't feel like I'm doing this alone. Oh my gosh, I must be going crazy. No, that's widow's fog. And no doctor ever talked to me about that. I learned everything I learned through grief education. Every time I ended up in the ER thinking I was having a heart attack, they would just say, it's in your head. It's just a simple anxiety attack. I'm like, there's nothing simple about this. And I would walk out of there and I would have such despair and I would feel so hopeless because they didn't give me any tools. They didn't tell me, okay, what do I do? I'm walking out of here, but I still feel like I'm having a heart attack. They're telling me I'm not. So I became my own health advocate too. And I really, really dove deep into learning about anxiety and how to help myself. If you think about it, my daughter, not only did she lose her daddy, she lost me. I always say this with my widow clients, and they understand and relate to this. The night that he died, he took a piece of my soul with him up to heaven. And Emma, my daughter, she lost her carefree, happy go lucky mom who would just grab her car keys. Oh, sweetheart, let's go to Disney World. Oh, let's go to Busch Gardens. She lost me too, because I was riddled with anxiety, staying under the bed covers, crying all day long. So, yes, I had to make that decision. And that decision was not easy. And I taught myself, I made a bargain with myself, Lottie. I knew I needed to start walking, but I could not get out of bed. And my bereavement counselor did not understand. She had never experienced spousal loss. So I told myself, I call it in my book, I write about this, about self care. It's called The Power of One. I negotiated with myself, Christina, if you can get out of bed for 1 minute tomorrow morning and go outside and go for a walk, you can come back to bed and cry. But that first morning, I still failed. I couldn't do it. You would think tying your shoes, leaning over to tie your sneakers would be so easy.
Mm.
But Vladdy, my heart was broken into a million
I
pieces. I couldn't even tie my shoes. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? How could you not tie your shoes? Your grief is exhausting. Grief is messy. And so I tried the next morning. When I got outside, it was the most beautiful gift I ever gave myself. I started to see the sky was blue again. The
know.
grass was green. I could smell that somebody had just mowed their lawn. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I went back to bed after 1 minute of walking and I added 1 more minute every day. And by the end of the month, I had walked 30 minutes. But I had to do that. I had to like reframe my thought
Yeah.
process on that because I couldn't just get out of bed and be the old Christina, like, okay, I'm going to go for a 30-minute power walk. And then I learned the beauty of walking. And that's where I started to talk to my husband and I would talk to God. And if I was angry, I would find a place where nobody could hear me. I would cry, I would scream, but I would
Mm.
walk. So that was my healing place.
Such a powerful story. And I really, I mean, I bow to you. Like, I appreciate you sharing, but that is such a great example of how people, and I see this a lot in a coaching business. It's when they feel like, well, they set the goal, they set some sort of, like you did, I will go. But you take that very tiny step. And if you can stick with the tiny step, people look at it like, well, that's not going to make any difference. But take the
Mhm.
step you can from where you are right now with whatever you've got, and then just move forth. And baby steps take you all the way to Mount Everest. I love
They
this saying because I'm a
absolutely do.
climber. So, yes, you can be a trained one, get there faster, but really, does it really matter as long as we make it up there? It's everybody's journey is different, and everybody
Yeah.
chooses to, and we all rise together. And I love when listening to your story and the positivity, and you are actually positive coach, positive widow coach, so
The
it
positive
really,
widow. Yeah.
yes, but your positivity flows through, and I'm sure it wasn't at that time when you were going through it and when you were talking about being under the cover, that positivity goes because we don't accept it, and it's also us sticking it out of the door and really saying, I don't need you because I just want to be under the pillow, feel sorry
Yep.
for myself, and I'm fine just here on my own and I don't need anybody, like those emotions. And they roll like a snowball. We make a
Yes.
snowball and we can roll it and roll it, gets bigger. But if you send it down the hill, it's gonna become an avalanche, possibly, because then once it's in a speed, we can't stop it. And
Right.
I love your story because it reminds me of a personal trainer who said to me, and this is 3 years ago when we worked, and she said, I have this challenging client and I just can't get him to come to gym. Like he's so like once he's there, everything's fine and he needs this help because of his health. But I don't know how to like, what do you mentally advise to clients? I said, make him come to a gym, agree that he will come for 5 minutes every day and and for
Yes.
30 days 5 minutes every day, and then he can leave. And he was like, she said to me, well, he agreed to it eventually, but she said he was really unhappy. He said, well, I have to get up of bed and I have to drive to here and I'm only here 5 minutes. I don't even sweat, so how can I lose the weight? I'm paying you for like feeling fitter and healthier. This is a nonsense. It's not leading me anywhere. At the end of the month, actually way sooner than that, he came and he said, I absolutely love what you did because now I see what's happening here. It's got nothing to do with the exercise. It's got nothing to do with it, but that
Right.
decision of taking that one moment, because it's
Yes.
the power of stepping into that new version, new identity, who you want to become. And if you just want to do it 30 days for 30 minutes, you probably, and this is what I'd love people to hear, go back to the story again, because most people fail for this particular reason. We set too high goals, too big goals,
Right.
which there is nothing wrong with setting big goals. However, take the small steps, continuous, constant steps to get out of where you are. And then when you're in this neutral ground, then you boost it up. Because
Yes.
I
And
mean,
that's where
I
you're going to
love that.
start to find the healing. And that's
Mm.
because if you're in bed under the covers, there's
Yeah.
never going to be hope or healing. You're never going to feel those glimmers of joy. I'm always talking about the glimmers of joy because I know what my clients are feeling. They feel guilt when
Yeah.
a moment of joy starts to come up because, oh, he's not here to enjoy this moment. I can't enjoy it too. And so I work through that with them and teach them to start noticing all those little microscopic moments that you might have been missing out on and just embrace those glimmers of joy, cherish them, hold them close to your heart because once you start looking for those glimmers of joy, more will come up. So, yeah,
We always manifest more of what we pay attention to. So if we
right.
focus more on the negative part, the more of the negative
Yes.
parts come. What would you say to people? And I know this is just a question, like hypothetically, because I know people usually say to me, "But you don't understand. I'm in this position." Like always people coming from that point that I'm super hurt and everything. What would be the breaking point for them to even consider like come, because so many resist coming and joining a group and being vulnerable because it's sharing with someone. And once you start being in that grief, as you said, and really guilt, which is a very low frequency emotion, it's they don't even find strength to actually take that step to come and see someone like you.
Right. I talk a lot about that in the book. Number one, my mission, as we talked about the intention, my mission is to raise awareness on widowhood. And a lot of times, what I've learned over the years now is we want to stay attached to the pain. We feel that we're in a comfortable situation. But if you really think about it, you're not comfortable. You're sitting in pain. So I asked them, think about 8 weeks from now, because my program is 8 weeks. Think about 6 months from now. Think about where you are today. Now imagine being connected with beautiful sisterhood because 50% of your healing is surrounding yourself with the right people who can witness your grief, who can understand every little baby step you're taking, and they're not going to shame you. They're going to support you. They're going to lift you up. And then imagine learning that you're not going crazy. Everything is through grief, it's through widow's fog. And now you have the tools, the healing tools to take those steps to move forward. and you're not going to leave him behind. That's the biggest reason why people don't want to get the support. They feel like if they are going to take steps to move forward, they're leaving him behind. And I
Mhm.
remind them, you're not. You're going to take him right here and carry him in your heart forever. But it's important for you to feel your own self-worth, to find your joy again, your purpose, your meaning, and to love life again. Put your hands on your heart every morning and say, thank you, God. Thank you for another day. Thank you, heart. Thank you, heart, for carrying me through the darkest days of my life.
Oh,
It's so important that we take care of ourselves. This is a gift. Every morning we wake up and we start to feel that heartbeat under our hands. It's a beautiful gift from God, and it means we're still here. We have a purpose, and I chose to turn my pain into purpose. And every
yes.
time my book sells, it's another piece of Roger's legacy. He is part of my journey. Without him, I wouldn't have Emma, but I also wouldn't be the positive widow coach.
Yeah.
Without him, none of this would be possible. So I love to see their breakthroughs. I love to see them have those moments, those glimmers of joy again, and not stay in the darkness.
I'm going to order the book. I haven't lost anyone, but I really would love to, and I'm going to advise everyone to do so. But I love what you said because on our journey, the challenges we go through are actually the things we can help people with because we can
Yes.
relate to it, we can understand it, we went through it, and we all know how challenging it sometimes is because it doesn't just happen that you wake up next morning. I love actually what you said. You are a person who can vibe. I can feel you vibrate gratitude. And this is actually such a huge key for someone to transform and be positive and happy. It's when you are operating from the frequency of gratitude and appreciation, you will be connected to abundance and this life. See, I've heard years ago, and every morning I wake up, I say thank you, God, for another beautiful day and life breathing in
Yes.
me before my feet touch the bed. So as you were talking, I thought this is funny because I've heard someone talking about it, and I can't remember who it was, but I adopted that practice right away. And ever since that, it just became part of me. And it's really beautiful because it's what you're saying, those small things and transforming through it. And we heal through the work. We don't heal
Yes.
by just doing it. I mean, I love, and I'm really going to encourage people, please, if you are in a situation, or do you only work with females or males as well?
My clients are widows, but I will tell you, I have had so many widowers buy my book. And I actually put a little disclosure at the front of my book that all you have to do is change. Because a lot of times I'll say spouse, your loved one, but if I do say husband, you can just change it to wife.
Life.
And it doesn't have to be, you could have a fiance. So many choose not to get married, but they were life partners.
Yes.
So yes, this is for anyone, but my private grief relief group coaching program, it is for widows. I want to be real, I want to be authentic, and through my grief education training, I learned that widows and widowers grieve very differently. And so
Mhm.
my experience is losing my husband. So I do work with the females, but we also do fun things like I had a coloring connect tonight. I
Aw.
created a coloring book based on hope and healing, and it's all pictures of the beach. Because again, I told you I had to become a health advocate about anxiety. It was the fear of the unknown. I didn't know, what do I do now that he died? We were a we, and now
Mm.
overnight, I'm an I'm a me. So I went from a we make these decisions to now I have to make these decisions. And it really crippled me with anxiety. And this is such a good release. It helps get you grounded. It helps you just relax, be at peace. Coloring is wonderful for stress, for overwhelm, widow's fog. It could be, and I actually have a lot of people buy it at my speaking events, and they're not even a widow, but they love the beach pictures. And it's just beautiful, powerful words. Absorb every feeling. And I always say, if you don't feel, you're not going to heal. If you suppress those feelings, you're not going to heal. So, yeah, but back to the gratitude, I just wanted to share one thing. That was one of the hardest chapters in my book, was writing about grief and gratitude, because I thought, oh, I don't sound nice in my book about it. And I wanted to give hope to everybody. I'm like, Christina, you said you were going to be authentic. You were going to be real. You're going to show the ugly and the good. And all that encompasses grief. So I did write about how difficult it was,
Mm.
so difficult for me to feel any gratitude after he died. I kept thinking to myself, well, I only had 14 years with him. I only had 6 years with him as a parent, co-parent, and 5 of those years he was sick with cancer. So I kept saying, I only. And then it wasn't until I started my walking, started to see the blue skies, started talking to God and to him. It was then that I realized I got to spend 14 years with him. I got to have six
Yes.
beautiful years with him, raising Emma together. It again, that mind shift
Shift.
that you have to go through. Yeah. So,
I
but
love that
I
you pointed it
struggled
out.
with that.
Yeah. And it's like in a personal development, so many times we state something and in a life, genuinely, not just the development. I mean, everything is life is really the game, right?
Yeah.
We have one chance to come and play it right, and we don't always. And the thing is, people feel guilty about what they do, but it's not about that. I love that. I say to my kids all the time, stop thinking about failing as a bad thing. And this is actually something that I don't like about educational system, doesn't really teach them enough that
Right.
failure is not a bad thing. Because they sometimes come and I hear lots of them going, well, oh, I failed. I said, well, you're not less worthy just because you failed. You just need to get better or figure out a different way to do it. And we have to fail a few times if we want to master
Yes.
something.
Yes.
And gratitude truly is like it's the type of gratitude you're talking about, which is a generative, unconditional gratitude. Sometimes we say, oh, thank you, thank you. We're grateful for things, but it's conditioned because somebody comes and does something for us. So it's nothing wrong. Of course, we feel gratitude because
Right.
we got a present or somebody did something for us. It makes us happy. So, it is gratitude, but it's been conditioned by an act or by a
Yes.
present. But the unconditional gratitude is what you say. You wake up and you touch the heart. You say, thank you for this experience. And, going through the diseases and people going through loads of challenges in a life, and then stopping and saying, thank you for bringing this into my life because I have now understood the core values. I love how you're expressing authenticity as well. I think it's so important in this way. It's one of my core values as well. Authentic, being authentic.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
really don't think that I really believe one thing is like you either want to be happy or you want to be right. And in a life, we so many times want to just feel that, but this is trying to explain. So the letting go in this process of healing was something I
Yes.
found challenging because to let go of control and certain things, like that was one of the hardest thing for me to take a responsibility that certain things in our life happened and we're there for some reason. So you actually really represent this so beautifully. Like you took
Oh,
responsibility. I
thank
mean, you could
you.
have stayed under the duvets, and how many people you're helping now?
Yes. Yes. And the gratitude one more time about the heart. The reason why I started that, again, I was in the ER so many times, not knowing it was a panic attack or anxiety attack. There were nights where I tried so hard not to fall asleep because I was so scared that my heart would stop beating and I would have that heart attack. So for me, there's such a special meaning. It is truly a gift to be able to wake up every morning and put my hands on here and say, thank you, God, for a new day. So, yes. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. So, what would you say? So, I will post your links of the books and the program. So, I'd like you to follow Christina, go to her website. Everything will be in the description. You can directly contact her and buy the book because awareness is really everything. Sometimes the first step into change is the awareness. Because if we don't know what's happening and we don't have enough awareness, then we can't really be intentional about things. And that's how we started. What was Christian's? What's your mission? Like, what is your life mission?
My well, it's so funny because my daughter, I was having I call them griefy days, griefy moments. I was having a griefy moment and she's like, well, why don't you call one of your friends? And I looked at her, I said, oh, that's such a good idea. I'm going to drive to the beach. I'm going to go do a live. And she's like, what? I'm like, my sisterhood, my widows, I
Mm.
created it to help them so they wouldn't feel alone. But I had no idea that how much they would bring to my life, how much value and growth and compassion. We just went through two back-to-back hurricanes. We had such destruction. We lost our cars. There was so much devastation. My widow community, they stepped forward. They helped me when I least expected it. And that's what you learn in grief is people that you think is going to be there for you. Sometimes they're not. And it's the ones with heart, with kindness, with compassion that you least expect that will come out of nowhere. And you're like, oh my goodness. So, my passion is to continue to raise awareness about widowhood. We still live in an uneducated grief society. Even the medical community, the doctors, they're not educated on how
Yes.
to talk about, oh, I'm so sorry you lost your husband. If there was a complication with a surgery, they don't have the bedside manners. We still truly live in an uneducated grief society. So, for anybody that's listening, if you know somebody that had a loss, I also write about things to say, things not to say, things to do, and things not to do when you are surrounded by somebody that just experienced a profound loss in their life. So, don't say, oh, I know how you feel.
Yeah,
Say,
it's so true.
so, my mission is to raise awareness on grief, to raise awareness on widowhood, and to just start bringing joy, hope, love, and help people take those baby steps to move forward with more love in their heart and less pain in their heart.
I love your energy, and you are such a great advocate for what you do because I'm gonna say this as a sort of closure. Um, I love what Christine said because not only she walks the talk, like, she really is someone who's gone through it and grew through it. So when we grow through the bad experiences, it's not about what happens to us. It's about how we rise above it because we are greater and grander version. And it's us who needs to kind of almost release that power. Because every single one of you is special and you have the power inside you. And I've learned through my life, and I know that listening to Christine is something, take a responsibility for your life and for everything. And just take that, say yes to yourself, because end of the day, that yes, the initial yes we say it is to us. It's not, and then we can give, it's like a ripple effect. We can't give what we don't have. And I know we've mentioned it before. But I remember when somebody said to me, when you're learning all these materials, when you're learning about the grief, whatever it is we're studying and passionate about, the only true transformation happens when you start teaching it. And I know this is true because it's so much easy to explain it to your friend and learn it. And, I can be talking about it. And then when you're teaching it, it has to be a different way of expressing the information. And it's a whole healing process. It's a whole growth process for us as well. So I love as you
Yes.
describe that you actually heal through helping someone else. It always comes back. It's like this circle. What you give out multiplies and come back.
Right. And when I wrote the book, I knew that I used to be such an avid book reader, but with grief, with widowhood, I couldn't get through a book. So I
Mm.
intentionally wrote my book where you don't have to read it from front to back. I have a widow's wisdom box inside my book, a table of contents. You can pull out, oh, today I'm feeling anxious. I think Christina gave us some self-care tips, some healing tools in that chapter. I only have to pull out that chapter today. You don't have to read it from front to back. Grief and gratitude is in there because they can coexist, they can live side by side. But it took me practice. It took me years to understand that. So, yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. And my
Thank
book,
you
by the
so
way, is
much for
available on
sharing.
Amazon. But there's both of these are on Amazon. You can find me under Christina Napoleon. But I've had a lot of people reach out to me recently, Vladi, that want me to sign the book
Mm.
and in memory of their loved one. So please feel to reach out to me and I'll be happy. It would be my honor to do that for you as well.
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I will make that comment as well in a description if people want to do
Okay.
that. I'll give them your
Yes.
website and stuff. So do reach out directly to Christina. And you never know. You might know of a friend or someone who's going through a grief, and it will help. it always helps to feel being part of community who understands, because that vulnerability we feel better to share amongst the people who went through it, because it's just the stories are more relatable. So it's really important to say yes to yourself and just take the step you can from wherever you are right now and move forward, because it is your life and you get one chance to make sure you live it the best you can.
Look for those glimmers of joy. They're out there. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for
Oh,
joining
thank
us. I
you.
really
It was my,
appreciate you.
oh, thank you. It was my honor to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Bye.